I'm Louis R. Perez. Today we're going to take a look at I Walk the Line by Johnny Cash. And for those of you that have been following me along with the Michael Jackson Remembrance videos, you'll notice that here with this Johnny Cash song, although there are similarities within both performers, the overall listening experience is much lighter for many reasons that we'll get into in just a moment. As with this and the other videos, we don't judge, criticize, or critique the music, but rather that we are listeners talking about the music that we enjoy. We also cannot play the music because that would be a copyright violation, but we do have a lot of material to talk about that will continue to hone up your listening skills. So it's best to listen to the music before and after the presentation so you may better understand all the things discussed here. If you're experiencing my videos for the first time, I suggest you stop here and go back to the first Michael Jackson Remembrance video where we talk about his song Wanna Be Starting Something, and move along through the rest of them so that you may understand the level at we're at when you reach this presentation. In addition, not all of the language used here is musically professional because the video was intended for general audiences of all ages. So, starting off, where Michael Jackson's music was a high-energy pop sound, here, with Walk the Line, we're squarely in country music turf, where the song is a lot more calm and gentle in character, but the energy is concentrated on the very upper crust of the song. The music is approximately 2 minutes 46 seconds, and like Michael Jackson's Thriller song, the form of this piece is repeating verse-chorus sections, but without a coda. As you'll see, the music is successful enough that it doesn't need one. It's interesting to note that while it has 5 3-line verses, the chorus section is only 1 line, coming in at the end of every verse. Each verse-chorus section is performed exactly as the previous one, with lyrics and key changes, or let's say a new family of tones being the sole factors of change from one to the other. So where the thrust of Michael Jackson's music has many things going on in the song, the emphasis the composer or songwriter leans towards is sound. The ear is drawn towards many things happening throughout the piece. The voice at times is clearly in the foreground, but at other times it sounds more like one of the other instruments supporting the overall sound. By contrast, Johnny Cash in this music has 2 strong country music ingredients at work: the lyrics and the melody. They are pulling the ear towards that location of the sound, directing us to hear everything in voice 1 or Johnny. The guitar, bass, and percussion can all be heard, but they serve Johnny as he moves throughout the song. Remember, one song is not better than the other. It's the composer or songwriter's prerogative to write the music as he sees fit. Both Johnny Cash and Michael Jackson are delivering a sonority to us, but can you see how different the listening perception is? Going with the voices alone, Michael Jackson is by music standards a first tenor. Johnny Cash a baritone, or somewhere in a range between bass and tenor. The characteristics of a song can dramatically change just with voice selection. Imagine how different the songs would sound if Thriller was sung by a pop music baritone or Walk the Line by a country music first tenor. If you recall, the Michael Jackson pieces had a fairly large band and singer section. Here, it's Johnny singing the melody and a small band that includes a guitar, a double bass or stand-up bass, and Johnny's percussive creation, which is a piece of paper attached to his guitar that when he strums it, the quality is percussive and his guitar functions as a percussive instrument. This rhythmic instrument sets the mood of the music, which is a very regular rhythm described more popularly as a boom-chicka-boom feel throughout the song. The introduction is led by the guitar, which has its own melody in 2 parts. Michael Jackson's Thriller introduction, if you recall, also had 2 parts, a scene followed by a traditional introduction. The 2 parts function sequentially, one after the other. In Walk the Line, the two parts are also working sequentially within. The first part is the stepwise motion we hear, followed by the second part, an up-down skip of two tones back and forth. The difference between the two introductions is that the Michael Jackson intro is dipping into the rich variety of sound to make its point, while Walk the Line concentrates solely on the guitar, taking the melody to various chords. Now, for this next moment, I'm going to be speaking a little slower in order that you may understand the highly technical and important information regarding what's going on in our listening of the introduction. The stepwise motion continues, and so on. But if you note hearing it to yourself, the stepwise motion without the up-down skips puts together a complete melody before the main body of the song. Therefore, the up-down skip tones wouldn't be missed because the stepwise motion melody gives a complete thought to our listening. The up-down skip tones are functioning more as a chord supporting the stepwise tones. Now, the introduction is the only time in the song that we hear a full, complete guitar passage. Throughout the rest of the song, the guitar supports Johnny as he sings the main body of the song. Moving on, after the introduction of the song, the transition between the verses is regularly heard as Johnny goes into the music. The up-down skip now becomes significant in function because while it is part of a chord, it also serves as Johnny's tuning fork. The verses move from one key to another, or from one family of tones to another. Johnny hears the tones and hums them loud enough for both listener and performer to hear, and then goes right into the verse. Now, verse 1 is also significant in that it is both a statement and a recap of his music. It begins with our familiar up-down skip played by the guitar, where its movement is forming chord tones throughout the verse. Meanwhile, the bass player sounds as if he's using his hand strumming the instrument and not a bow, which gives us a much warmer sound. His part is similar in that he also plays chord tones supporting the guitar as the bottom layer of the total sound, while Johnny continues with his boom chicka boom percussive action on his instrument. Johnny, as voice 1, is singing a melody arch. It starts and ends each line on the same tone, but it goes up to a high point before returning to that tone. The second line is a complete melodic repetition of the first. The third line has a change in tones, but continues to form a melody arch. Then, on the chorus line, the melody dips down before going back to the starting tone. The guitar returns to the foreground of our ears, playing the up-down skip once, and then moves into stepwise motion to a new key or a new family of tones, returning to the up-down skip for Johnny to tune in, and the cycle starts all over again with new lyrics for verse 2. Verses 3 and 4 follow the same formula. Each verse moves to a new family of tones or key signature, which is one of the main differences between them. The other, as we mentioned, are the lyrics. The last verse is a return to verse 1, and everything except the key or family of tones is the same. Although we are back at verse 1, note the key or family of tones, where Johnny is singing near the bottom of his voice range. The end or cadence of the song follows Johnny, where the guitar plays the up-down skip as the song fades out. Now, in the beginning of the presentation, we said the form was continuing verse-chorus sections. However, we have a surprise for you. Earlier in the presentation, we said the lyrics are a significant part of the song. Looking at the illustration, we see two things happening at once. The music form is continuing verse-chorus movement, but the lyrics are put together in ABA form. The song, though, is categorically continuing verse-chorus sections, but note how deceptively simple the song is without active listening. Yes, it sounds simple, but as we went into it, the music has its own hidden complexity. As we mentioned in the beginning of the video, country music puts a big emphasis on lyrics. This recap in the last verse is a very good example of country music songwriter technique. In Michael Jackson's Thriller, the songwriter or composer uses lyrics differently, with the music defining the form more exclusively. But the goal, as with Johnny's song, is the same: to give a complete thought. That concludes our presentation on Walk the Line by the great Johnny Cash. I'm Louis R. Perez. Thank you for your visit, and hopefully I'll see you again in a future video.